like Jesus upholding nations. This ain't been seen in ages, so I give it to in phases. Your mistake will be the gravest, not exercising patience.
When you look at the way that your tax dollars are being spent, you should be outraged. You should be angry.
Hey, it's time to pay your taxes. Oh, okay. How much do I owe you? What's the total amount? Oh, we're not gonna tell you that. Why not? We just don't want to, really, you know? So, you figure it out. But you do know how much I owe you, right? Oh yeah, of course we do. But you're not gonna tell me. No. No, you figure that out. But what happens if I pay you the wrong amount? Oh, don't do that. Don't do that. Pay every single penny, because if you don't, we'll find you. You know?
Yeah. These songs. Yo. Rolling on fumes with no gas can. Rolling on fumes with no gas can. Yeah. Yo, they got you paying for privileges that's really your birthright. Looking through derivative lenses instead of first sight. Primary sources materialize at first light. Bastardized binary bosses only seeing black and white. Hold tight, yeah. Squared nigga. So you waiting, nigga. Let's go! Got you paying for privileges, that's really your birthright. Looking through derivative lenses instead of first sight. Primary sources materialize at first light. Bastardized binary bosses only seeing black and white. Hold tight while I politely highlight my alliteration. Better yet, the integration of intelligent information, plus the disassociation of lack from so-called blacks. And the seed of greed should always bleed corporate tax, while white collars minimum but blue collars max. You can't lie to me, you know when I speak it's all facts. Like sending paperwork contracts through 90s technology. They stole it all from symbology to cosmology. Declare my own independence, no wait for you acknowledge me. No prophecy, heaven nor my apathy ain't stopping me. He ain't stopping me. The Uncle Sam tax scammer have you beat like a task scam. Doom rolling off fumes with no gas can. Worse than being fatally gaped on a dash cam. Just foul with a smile and follow the Dame Dash plan. Uncle Sam tax scammer have you beat like a task scam. Doom rolling off fumes with no gas can. Worse than being fatally gaped on dash cam. Just foul with a smile and follow the Dame Dash plan.
Where does this money go exactly? Like, what do you guys use this for? You're asking too many questions, so how about we just take you to prison, huh? No, just take this, okay? It's all I have. Thank you. We're gonna bomb a lot of countries with this.
Wait, what?
I mean, education. It's gonna go toward education. That's what I meant to say.
Where's this money going? I mean, we know where some of it's going in Minnesota. It went overseas. It went to Somalia. It went to NGO fronts. We know where it's gone in some other states. California gave away billions of dollars to a pro-Hamas NGO. But $1 trillion nationally, where's this money going to?
I appreciate that question because most people don't ask that question. It goes to terrorism, it goes to child trafficking, it goes to drugs, and then it's used to purchase luxury items, cars, purses, homes. That's all funded by people like me that pay taxes.
So you're telling me that the electrician who goes to work every day and clocks in and works his butt off and tries to earn just enough to be able to, make his rent, maybe have a kid or two, put food on the table, his tax money is being used to buy other people luxury items, cars, yachts, whatever else, and is going to fund terrorism and child trafficking?
Yes, sir.
$1 trillion a year on this stuff?
$115 million an hour.
$115 million an hour. How do they get their hands on it? What are we talking about here? Trends, national organizations, criminal networks? How do they get their hands on it?
They take advantage of antiquated government systems and processes. They go into programs that they know elected and appointed officials won't touch, and they can steal at scale.
They constantly have us arguing against each other, women versus men, black versus white, It's a nonsense. The reason why they want us constantly warring is because it distracts from all of us coming together and taking a look at who the real criminals are. And the real criminals are this small group, this small cadre of powerful people that I think we're virtually all still on a plantation. They just made it look nice. You got a nice chair, we got nice chairs here.
I learned from whistleblowers from the cabal itself is that they have to work within something they call the rules. And this is very, very important. The rules are a body of spiritual principles that they must follow in order to be allowed to exist. Now, what do I mean by allowed to exist? I mean that they are aware that there are benevolent forces that will prevent them from achieving their goals unless we give them permission to enslave us.
When you hear about slavery for 400 years, For 400 years, that sounds like a choice. Like, you was there for 400 years and it's all of y'all? You know, like, it's like we're mentally imprisoned.
Ultimately, the universe is intelligent, alive, and conscious, and it is benevolent. It is a benevolent consciousness. That consciousness does not allow the negative to succeed unless it is invited. So the Cabal has made a science, a very elaborate science, out of studying these arcane, occult, magical principles that allow them to get away with what they do. So they have to put out everything that tells you who they are in music videos, in these Super Bowl halftime shows, the Grammy Awards ceremonies. They're out there showing you the truth. This is what people are going to have so much trouble with once disclosure happens, is that these people actually practice black magic, and they are very, very good at it.
You believe the elites are actually practicing magic? Yes, and so are you. You're just doing it badly because you don't know what you're doing, so I'm going to give you a lesson. Perspective changes everything. The world around you is made of stuff, right? Of tables and chairs, of owls and bears, of you and me, of poo and pee. Except if you change your perspective, you'll see that all of this stuff is actually made of the same stuff. It's actually all made of atoms, and there's no table atoms and chair atoms or you atoms and me atoms. The atoms are all elemental, right? Gold atoms, hydrogen atoms, helium atoms, iron atoms. Except if you change your perspective and look more closely, you'll see that the atoms are all made of the same stuff. They're made of nuclei, of protons and neutrons and electrons. And there's no hydrogen electrons or iron neutrons or gold protons. They're all just negatively or positively or neutrally electromagnetically charged. Now, each of these perspectives is true. The thing that varies is how useful each perspective is depending on the situation that you're applying it to. The goal is to achieve understanding and mastery of reality. And since the reality that you experience takes part mostly in your head, that means that mastering reality and mastering yourself are the same thing, which includes the ability to consciously choose perspective not necessarily based on what is most true, but what is most useful. For instance, if you wish to become a more confident, competent, conscientious, and kind version of yourself, you can craft and visualize a very clear idea of what that version of yourself would be. Then through a process of affirmation or meditation or discipline and really whatever works for you the best is the most useful, you functionally hypnotize yourself into believing that you are this version of yourself, that it's already true. And once you believe it's true, it is. Except you know it's not, because if you believed it was already true, you wouldn't have to hypnotize yourself into believing it in the first place. But that perspective isn't useful. We know that the body processes fear, anxiety, and stress in much the same way as eagerness and excitement. If you can convince yourself that the situation you're worried about is actually a challenge that you're eager to overcome because of how badass you're going to be, shrugging it off like it wasn't a problem, then you've changed the nature of what the situation is by changing the nature of how you were looking at it. Now, at this point, you might be thinking, but people deciding what to believe based on what they think is most useful rather than what is actually true is like how the most terrible ideas in the history of the world exist. And yes, that's true. Hence the opening line of people are doing it badly because they don't know what they're doing. This is a tool. Tools are not good or bad. They are what you use them for. A hammer is a very useful tool if you build something useful with it. If you use it to hit somebody in the head, it's destructive. And nothing is potentially more destructive than someone using a very powerful tool that they don't know how to use properly.
Secret societies like the Freemasons, in which they guard their secrets through complex rituals in which the person who is an aspirant to that order has to learn how to keep a secret, has to learn secret handshakes, secret passphrases, secret codes. And what that does is it creates a body of people from which you can do recruitment. Because when you recruit from these people, they have now taken a blood oath that if they ever betray the secrets of the order, they will be killed. And when you go up to the 7th degree in Freemasonry, which is called Royal Archmasonry, you swear that you will do anything within your power to free a fellow Mason from harm's way, even if he has committed acts of murder or treason against his own government.
Now, we don't talk about secret societies and conspiracies. We hear about the Illuminati and all this stuff has become very popular. And people are just going all over the place with secret societies. But secret societies do rule your everyday affairs. Okay? But you have never known that there were black secret societies. You just hear about Rockefeller and Rothschild. But you haven't learned about your secret societies.
There's a book you can get called Confederate Cherokees, the story of John Drew's regiment. John Drew, people didn't know, that's Noble Joe Ali's father, bless the prophet. And he had a lieutenant in his army who used to take orders from him, who was named Albert Pike. Albert Pike is the guy who, after the Confederacy War, started the whole KKK thing, as well as rewrote the pseudo-Masonry doctrine and injected all the Luciferian and Satanism and heavy homosexuality into it. through his morals and dogma. Yeah, masonry existed, and it existed as a means. Anciently, it was used as a means by our people to civilize people who weren't a part of our nation, and to give them forms of deep sciences that were passed down to us orally, but was given to them through symbology.
Masonry is mother and son. That means every man has a belly button. Every man came from a mother. To study the planet Earth, you must know the mother to know the son, because even her sons were once herself, and they were all female eggs. So the study of masonry is a study of the human condition on the planet Earth. It's Ma, son, and the study of rape, masonry. Masonry is essentially Islam, the science, not Islam, the creed. There's two different distinctions. Do you understand? It deals with I, self, law, and master. It is man knowing himself, and is ancient on the planet. It has nothing to do directly with Prophet Muhammad. Do you understand? He's the founder of the uniting of Islam. Do you understand?
Now, consider that Martin Luther King was a 33 Freemason, right? Now, the secret being a Moorish church, but you don't get ministers on the course of Postcode and talk about they know who the Moors are, too. Reverend Sullivan, their church affiliate, he was a Mason. Reverend Clayton, King Cummings, Mason. Al Williams, Senator, Mason. Jesse Jackson, Mason. You understand something? But most of our people don't know what Masonry is. They don't know it's actually Moorish science codified coming from the Renaissance that the Moors did in Europe, bringing the Europeans out of darkness into light. And that was codified into an order of preserving that knowledge. And they ruled the world with Islam, even though they may be Christians. You see the whole point? So your concept of what you think the world is not really what it is.
When you get up to 30th and 31st degree, they say that the goal of their organization is to crush the head of the serpent of religion. Now, granted, organized religion has caused a lot of problems, but what they really mean is not that all religion should be excluded. It's that they want to make it so only their religion exists on earth, and if you don't follow their religion, you will be killed. So what they've been doing is they've been giving us their religion. They go out there in music videos and movies and video games and television shows, and they're showing us Luciferian symbolism.
You know, when you start telling the truth, you become a problem to the establishment, right? So if you're the military-industrial complex and you want people to just kind of sleepwalk into another war, and I'm sitting here telling you that, you know, Pentagon just can't keep finding the trillions of dollars that they send overseas. They've got this budget and they're sending all this money to Ukraine, and then they say, oh, we don't know where all the money went. It's being laundered and it's being sent back to a very small group of powerful people. And so when you have someone like me who's cutting through all of the emotional arguments, you have to turn that person into persona non grata, right? And what better way to do it than to have their own community attacking them and saying that they're, you know, pro-white or anti-black. I mean, we've been doing this for a very long time in this country. Black America, wake up, okay? They don't like you. They don't like us, okay? There's not America has, yes,
America.
Yeah, like the government, the American government. Why would you think the American government wants to help you? Well, at what point in history has that proven to be right? And I'll challenge that and I'll make it wider to all Americans. When has it ever been the circumstance that you felt that the government really just was out for your own best interests? Think of them as a corporation. They want to grow themselves. They want new departments, bigger departments, larger budgets like any other corporation would want. And they never want to leave DC because we don't have term limits, which we should have, right? If we had term limits and said, you can only serve for 4 years, well, then guess what they would be doing for those 4 years? Trying to shrink government because they'd have to come back out and be us, right? It didn't actually matter if you were on the left or the right. They were all working together in DC and selling out all of America. I mean, there is no reason why you go to DC and become a multimillionaire. You're supposed to be there to serve the American people. You're there taking our tax dollars. So what was happening was these lobbying interests, like, you know, Big Pharma goes down and they lobby and they'll offer money to a candidate to go push a drug, like the COVID vaccine, or they'll lobby for war. It's like, you know, biggest lobby, of course, military-industrial complex. So we're all suffering. You're going to work because these lobbyists are getting their incentives done by buying out these politicians. And so Trump kind of hit the scene as somebody who wasn't bought and paid for because he didn't need their money. He wasn't like a random congressman going to DC with no money. And he just started talking about the swamp. Like, it's not even Republican or Democrat. And I want people to wake up to that because I'm not here like ride or die for Republicans. They all sell us out. Like, the stuff that they did during COVID is criminal. It's criminal. And
who was found on that?
I mean, just the free handouts. First off, trillions of dollars. You're signing these omnibus bills. If you read into it, where that money is going, it's insane. It's literally going, you know, to museums, boards of museums. They're quite literally money laundering is what's happening when they sign these bills.
This whole art world is just laundering the inheritance they stole from the original Moorish heirs. My paintings are worth millions because they act as collateral for a debt the state can never pay back.
Keith, your work is everywhere. Why?
Because art is for everyone. The Moors brought art to every corner of the planet. It shouldn't hide in a vault. Museums are just necropolises for stolen inheritance.
And when a gallery buys a painting, they aren't buying art. They are laundering the interest from the Granada deal that was supposed to be returned to the Moorish heirs. It is trust-to-trust banking.
Why do billionaires spend millions on these pieces?
They're buying placeholders for the ESG funding in the military-industrial complex. They use art to siphon kinetic energy for their ritualistic stock market, where your melanin is a commodity traded.
Europe is just a giant mausoleum for the items stolen from the Moorish Empire. Billionaires buy art to conceal high-power money transactions and trafficking lines. The moment you stop creating, you become human capital in their ledger. The Order of the Golden Dawn and the OTO used the antique market to sell off the inheritance they stole from the original Moorish heirs. And the Freemasons? They're just cogs in the machine. They took the ancient science.
Beautiful art carries memories of the Moors who built the glorious cities before they were repurposed as banks or post offices. Moorish architecture was erroneously renamed Roman or Gothic after Reconstruction.
Everything gets repainted. They call it art restoration, but it is really iconoclasm, whitewashing original faces to hide that the first Europeans were melanated.
So art can hide things?
Museums are just closets.
They don't want you to know about Mummy Brown. The old masters took mummified melanated people and ground them into a paste to put into their paintings. Even the Mona Lisa, she was painted with mummies. Picasso and Matisse did it too.
160 million. Here it is at $170 million. 170 is bid and selling. Here it is then, the gentleman's bid, ladies and gentlemen, at 170 million for the Warhol is selling here.
But they keep it so that the information level is so low for Americans that it's like, oh, COVID's so bad, like we're going to give you a check that's like, $300. This basically describes welfarism, right? Like, despite the fact that there's been trillions of dollars since the establishment of welfare, Black Americans are poorer today than we were before it. People don't know this, but during the time of Jim Crow, before welfare was established in the 1950s, Black Americans were actually outpacing white Americans in this country in terms of economic growth. And the reason for that was because our families were together. We had good values. The government only wants to give you the bare minimum. But where's the rest of the money? Where is it going? They sign these bills making you think that this money is going to you. It's not. They're stealing from the American people. And you look at your congressman, whoever it is that you guys sent down to DC, and you realize that they're all just puppets. I feel like we're watching a performance, and who can say the most outrageous thing. The Republicans don't want to sign this because they want, slavery and they want you back in chains. The Democrats don't want to sign this because they want grandma to die. Whatever it is, you're watching to me, it's a play.
Spanish Inquisition is the foundation of the entire modern world's politics, and every politician knows it, every reverend knows it, every Shriner knows it, every Master Mason knows it, every member of Skull and Bones, Caicos, Ku Klux Klan, Knights of Malta, Daughters of American Revolution, Daughters of ISIS. Why do they know it? Because they belong to the secret societies to get the truth that's held from the masses. So they tell you it's devil worship so that you don't examine and recognize that the people who've been leading you is actually the vampires. So it's a very uncomfortable situation. Do you understand? Because the very people you trusted have been pulling you into the pit, standing behind the pulpit, and they don't even hide it.
Woman, this man showed me kindness, employed me, grabbed me out the field. Now he say his brother been killed. The man needs comfort. Not you filling up his mind, that old Louisiana bayou bull you on. Now we out here playing games, telling ghost stories in place of doing what we ought to do.
And what is it we supposed to be doing?
Being kind to one another and being polite. Now we is one people, and we shouldn't go in barging into other folks' places uninvited. So you've been in and out of here all day. Ain't never need to invite them. Yeah, something ain't adding up.
And they got a 501c3 Skull and Bones agreement set up by Skull and Bones member Lyndon Baines Johnson after they knocked Kennedy off for trying to reinforce Article 1, Section 10 of the American Constitution and bring the Gold Act back in, which they have abrogated, which is the source of your economic problems. I won't argue the fact that a lot of people keep claiming to do things for our people who won't bring these matters up, because these are the roots of the problem. And if you're not willing to deal with the root of your problem, don't consider that you're going to solve anything. Because you're not going to solve anything until you be honest and deal with what's wrong, what happened to you, how did you get to where you are. The enforcement of the Spanish Inquisition is the secret treaty of Verona. Secret treaty of Verona. You can find that in your congressional records because most of the so-called leader guys are paid not to talk about this. They're paid to present to you human beings are colors. They're not light-skinned, orange-skinned, black, uncle. They're my Negro aunt. That's incompetence. Human beings have nationalities all over the planet. Those are brand systems set up by Dutch masters to make such persons that accept them in law non-descendable. Write that down. Non-descendable. Which is the function, mind you, of the brand system. Not that the Europeans were just being nasty guys, you know, they don't want to know black history. Well, black history is dead history. That's for Asiatics and Africans who fell, distinguished from civilized people who still honor their mothers and their fathers. You'll never see a civilized person come from Nigeria, Kibalan, any of the nation states talking about their light-skinned, orange-skinned black people. They will honor their mothers and fathers and be protected under international law like civilized beings are supposed to be. As soon as you see people walking around talking about black and white, they're entering the code system of the Christian black codes, which was set up in 1724. That was adopted after James' speech for the Pope of Rome. After they set up their enclave in Jamestown, Virginia, after they murdered Mata Oka. Mata Oka, you will know as Pocahontas. And for the Europeans to get a stronghold in Morocco, they competed. They had two men, John Rolfe and John Smith, competing for her affections. Contrary to what they teach you in school, it was John Rolfe who married her. And they took her to Gravesend, England, and threw her overboard. Then they came back, she had a son. They came back and they started the first aristocracy in Jamestown, Virginia. And her name was Mata Oka, not Pocahontas. That's the beginning of the European hegemony on the North Gate. This is why persons in your secret societies and your highest degrees refer to themselves as the keepers of the North Gate. That's the cosmological name for Turtle Island, what you know as North America, land of the Moors, the land of Nod. And everybody knows but you. Do you understand? And when you think that your so-called black leaders don't have this information just because they don't talk about it, don't hold your breath, because they do. But it doesn't generate finance. You understand? Because truth does not require finance. Neither does any broke gods. It's a game. And they've all been playing it on you. Take it or leave it. That's the fact. And our children know that we've been full of doo-doo. It's the reason why they don't trust us anymore. They love us, but at the same time, they know we're full of doo-doo. We've left nothing for them but churches and bars and mosques and synagogues, and none of them have done anything for the community except give some guy with a 501c3 skull and bones agreement a $3,000 suit and a $60 million airplane, while the poverty, as soon as you step out of these beautiful buildings, is apparent everywhere. My interest is knowing that Rome has built a war machine and you have no remedy to the war machine. However, what you do have is an electrical activation of the pineal gland, the seed of Dawood, seed of David, that you can reconnect with the electrical grid, what is known as the Akashic Records, with a pure heart. And in doing so, even the greatest army can't beat you. But you must be sincere, because that's the only thing that you're going to do to beat Rome, because you're not going to beat Rome any other kind of way. Because they poisoned the food. They've given most of you dead pledges, because most people don't know that mortgage means dead pledge. Contract is dead and you're the pledge. That's what it means. And understand, those systems did not come in to force until 1913, after Skull and Bones Woodrow Wilson sold the government to, under the secret Treaty of Verona, that you have right there, to representatives of England for the popes of Rome to sell what they had conquered. Finally, the last of the generations that had any inkling of consciousness of their bloodline. And they met on Jekyll Island off the coast of Georgia. And under the secret Treaty of Verona, all the Christian nations, representatives, agreed to not contradict each other. And they split up more of your estate. Keep in mind, 1884, 1885, with the Berlin Conference, was that first major meeting of the Christian nations. Don't get caught up with no Jesus, because Jesus wasn't Christian. He was Yeshua. He was Yahudi. Do you understand? Or what you call Jew. And every secret society, they give a lesson of Ruth de Moabitis, his great-great-grandmother. But the reverends will never give that lesson to the people in the congregation, while he himself has it. He himself refused to enter in, but he hinders the little ones from entering in. And he gets kickback from Rome, who the people think he's fighting against. And he's really an agent for them. That's why they're doing so well, and you all, which is the blues of me, doing so bad. How many of you know that the 1040 form comes under that secret Treaty of Verona, and everything that you give, according to the entry of the age of Aries, or what you call the season of Aries, to the east, that you call East Star, stars now in the east, that 40% goes to the Queen of England, and the other 60% goes to the popes of Rome. Not a penny goes to your children. How many people know that that's a tribute under the secret treaty of Roma? And how come your leader guys haven't told you all that? Why you're so poor? Why you're being drained?
But I believe today the most serious evil organization on the face of the earth is the Vatican. You're talking the Knights of Malta, which gave us the 6 men who founded the CIA in America, were all Catholics, members of the Knights of Malta. When you begin to look at the banking fraternities in America, like the Bank of America, Union Bank in California, all of these people who founded these banks and today are running the banking establishment are all Knights of Malta, Catholic Masonry. All the kings and rulers in Europe rule by the divine right. It's called the divine right of kings. What are you talking about? Who represents divine to give the king the right? The Pope. The Pope appoints certain families to be over the French. The Pope appoints certain people to be over the Germans and over the British. And so by divine right. Why? Because the Pope represents God. And the Pope says that this family is holy and that they should rule. And therefore they can now say they rule by divine right.
Why they don't want to discuss these things? Why they want to say, well, we got to make somebody like Arthur Black said, no, how about getting them out your pockets? Yeah. How about that? Is that so hard? Secret Treaty of Verona. To enforce that Secret Treaty of Verona, they have what's known as the Doctrine of Discovery. Write that down. These are sequential. This is so that you can do some research for those, because you'll have many people who don't have interest in this information will try to tell you that that's devil's fault. Illuminati. And all that stuff. Keep the glassy eye and maintain their own servitude. You should not fear knowledge, for the people are destroyed by the day for lack of it.